gentlemen, welcome to the American Masterminds Podcast. I am your host tonight, Topher Sheeler. I am joined, making his Masterminds co-chair debut, the one and only Hunter Jones. Made a quick switch on from sides of the table.
Yep.
Love it.
I'm over here today.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got a very, very interesting guest for you here this evening. This is a gentleman that was recommended to us by a good friend of ours, and he has one of the most unique mindsets that I have come across yet on this podcast. I can't wait to get into this with him. You guys are going to have one hell of a show on your hands. Give it some time. It's a slow burn. Let us get there. The one and only Nick Brocco.
Hi, I'm Aiden at Enavive. Are you tired of worrying about what's in your water? Enavive has the solution. From our whole house water purification systems to our fast-filling reverse osmosis units, we can give your family clean, safe water at every tap. Text us now to schedule your consultation and experience water the way it should be, pure.
So I'm open book. You can ask me anything. I tell you what I do, what I believe in, whatever you want to know.
Absolutely. No, tell us what you do.
So I focus mainly on ideas and helping people share their ideas in the best way possible. Right? So I have an incredible mentor. His name is Steve Sacani. He's 77 years old, and he was partially raised by Walt Disney himself.
What?
Yeah, he was raised by Walt Disney. He was, grew up in California, and Steve's father passed away when he was about 10 years old, maybe 8, 9, or 10 years old, and his father's friend was Walt Disney. So Walt pretty much took over the father role for my mentor, Steve. And, Steve has just been an incredible blessing to me. He's built, I believe, 3 different Batmobiles, all worth over $5 million a piece. So
what does he do? He came under the tutelage of Walt Disney. What was he doing there? So
the way that Steve created his wealth originally was through selling insurance, and he became a millionaire at 18 years old. He's 77, so that was like 60 years ago.
Gee whiz.
Right, so that's a lot more than $1 million today.
Wait, hold on. Yeah, so if he was a millionaire in what, 19? If he was with Walt, that would have been at least the 60s, 70s.
Yeah, selling insurance.
Wow.
He's incredible. So from there, Walt told him, he said, "Steve, you can't build worlds. I already did that." So he said, maybe you could make something that moves. So Steve designed these cars, incredible cars, all one of one. Like, he kind of messed me up because I thought I wanted like a Lamborghini, like go to the dealership and like get a Lamborghini. And I was talking to him last night for 2 hours on the phone. I'm at the hospital with my son with the RSV. And I'm walking around the hospital with my son, and I'm talking to Steve for 2 hours on the phone. And he's just like telling me he just lost his house in the fire.
Oh no.
In California, one of the ones he designed and created, his own like huge mansion. And he lost the house in the fire, and he had a couple cars. And I said, "What cars did you lose, Steve?" And he goes, "Oh, this Ferrari, that Ferrari, this Lamborghini." And I said, "The like $20 million Lamborghini?" He's like, "Yeah, it's gone." I said, "You still got," and they're all like one of one. Like, so one of the cars he actually got like Mr. Lamborghini. This is how he refers to him. Mr. Lamborghini gave him he asked him to create a car for him. And it's just, like crazy, like little stories like that. Like, Mr. Lamborghini, I made a car. Like,
every once in a while you come across one of those guys.
Yeah, I hold on to him really tight.
Really tight. But it almost sounds like to anybody else, if you weren't there, you didn't know it, you didn't see it, it would sound like BS.
This sounds like BS. And I have a bunch of really cool photos in my phone of, him and I, going out to dinner or whatever with it. He brings his Batmobiles, and he picked me up in his Rocky III Maserati that he bought from Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like crazy. Like he owns the trademark to one of the Batman logos, one of the original Batman logos. So he earns, royalties on every single Batman.
So how in the world did you link up with this guy?
Yeah. So I told Steve last night, I said, I went on a podcast a couple weeks ago and I said, Steve, I'm keeping you alive. Because all of his friends passed away. Steve Jobs, Elvis. He has hair like Elvis. That's what people
really?
Well, that's what we would think. But he doesn't like that. Because the reality is Elvis copied his hair.
Oh, sorry.
So nobody, and I said, well, Steve, we got to help, tell the world that's a big deal. Like, and he looks like he's 40 years old. He's 77, looks like he's 40 years old. And so I met him in a rant. I used to live in Los Angeles for about 5 years. And I had a friend invite me to one of his buddies' house that he met. And I just went there to hang out. We're hanging out in the driveway. And he's showing me pictures of Steve in the garage. I had no idea who this was. It looked all fake, like, showing me this crazy McLaren, like all this, like the Elvis hair and crazy glasses. And the guy whose house he went to gets a phone call. And he goes, it's Steve calling me right now. And I'm like, what? And he says, he's coming over. He wants me to take a look at his bumper. So he pulls up in this red, like, numbers on the side of the car, McLaren, like a car that you wouldn't even think was a real car. It's a car that you would think was only a Matchbox. Pulls up. And the first thing I said to him when he gets out of the car, I said, don't take this the wrong way, but this looks incredibly fake. And he said, wow. He goes, really? I said, yeah. And I didn't know if I was going to offend him. And he said, that was my favorite compliment that I've ever gotten. He said, I strive to live a life that most people can't believe is real. Ooh. And from there, we just, I interviewed him on my phone for like 20 minutes. And from there, I started learning more and more about him. And I learned that all of his friends are dead. All of the friends that he grew up with and created with, like I said, Steve Jobs, they worked on the Batmobile together. And the same way you and I are talking now, he would talk with Steve Jobs, whether you're hanging out wherever you share ideas with each other. So Steve would tell me, I did share the idea for Buzz Lightyear for Toy Story. And if you look it up online, and my friends will say, oh, well, it doesn't say he did. I said, well, when you're friends with somebody, you kind of just share, little bits of, ideas, and you try to help each other out. You don't always have written credit, but the way he tells the story, you could tell he's, it's the same way that anybody would tell the story of somebody having helped somebody not gotten credit. And so yeah, from there, I kind of like Napoleon Hill from Think and Grow Rich. He was asked by, was it Dale Carnegie?
Yeah.
Who he asked him to go and learn from the most successful people on the planet. And he said, go do this and then write a book. So I kind of have decided recently to do what Napoleon Hill did with the people that are on the planet now. So I told Steve last night, I said, I feel spiritually obligated to help you share everything that you know. I said, there's not too many other people on the planet that can say they spoke to Walt Disney, let alone were mentored by Walt Disney and raised by him from 8 years old on. And I said, I need you to help me, help me help you share everything that you've learned over your life and how you were able to do all these things and create these things. And he said, you feel spiritually obligated? I said, yeah. He said, okay, I'll help you. And wow. So I'm going to be going there in April, beginning of April.
So how long have you known him?
I've known him for about 5 years, 5-6 years. Yeah, and we stay in touch. And I asked him about a week or two ago. I said, he's real down and out. He lost his house and lost his house in the fire. And he said none of his family called him to check on him. And he just sounded real depressed. And I said, Steve, when's the last time you were happy? I said, are you happy? He goes, oh, no. I said, when's the last time you were happy? Can you remember? And he said, well, the last time I was with you at dinner, when we went to dinner, I was really happy with me. And I'm like, and this is what I'm realizing, like, I don't know. I'm like, damn, like, I have some kind of a responsibility to do something with this person who, so anyway, there's no accidents. Yeah, I don't believe
everything kind of happens for a reason, and people come into your life. I find it funny because I swear to you, some of the biggest connections that I have came from a pop-off comment that most people would have taken the wrong way, but it landed. So it's kind of an interesting, and I bet you just stood out in his mind, and that's enough to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, and I was telling him, I said, you kind of messed me up, Steve. I said, it's hard for me to take advice from really anybody else, like as far as life advice. Like there's nobody else I want to be like. And he's like, really? He's like, what about like Elon Musk? And this is why I like him so much. He goes, what about Elon Musk? He's way wealthier than me, and he does so many more things. I said, Steve, Elon wouldn't ask that question. You're humble, and you've done everything. You've done more things than 99.9% of people can even comprehend. You've done them, and they're easy to you. And you're here asking me what I think. You're asking me for advice. Who am I? And I said, I bet when you're making those Batmobiles, you asked everybody around you what they think, or if they think how could it be better. You're asking everybody. I said, right? He goes, this is last night. I said this to him. He said, yeah. He goes, how do you know that? How do you know that? I said, well, this is who you are. And so he teaches me to remember to stay humble. And even when I think something's perfect, it could always be better, and to continuously ask until it is better than perfect. And so yeah, that's kind of like the core of me. And before I met him, I loved everything that Steve Jobs did as far as branding and what he did for the world with Apple. And of course, I love everything that Walt Disney did, and Steve and Walt worked together on some, Disney and Apple worked together on some things. And God gave me Steve. Walt wasn't available. God gave me Steve.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
So you found in this. So now your mission now is to take Steve's legacy and pass it on.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the battle plan for that?
So I told him I'm going to be coming to LA. I'm going to be there for a week in April. And, he's got the Batmobiles. He's got all these things that he made. These aren't cars that he bought. He made them, and you can't buy them. You can't buy them.
Right.
He won't sell, they're in museums and stuff like this. So I said, let's hang out. Let's just pull out a camera and see maybe we record a conversation, or we just start. Because he's never done anything with social media. He doesn't have a Facebook, nothing.
My kind of guy.
Yeah. So he's like, he was, all about God and, anything. He told me the other day, he said, Nick, God is in the business of impossibilities. That's what God does. He does the impossible. He said, so, and he'll tell me this, and then he also tells me how he's afraid now at his older age. And I said, Steve, weren't the negative things and the scary things around when you were doing all of these impossible things? And he's like, yeah. And I said, well, didn't you also have people around you who believed in impossible things? He said, yeah. I said, well, what's the difference now? He says, I don't have those people around me. So he is still who he is, but he's surrounded by negative, or people who just don't believe anything is possible. That's who he's kind of left with, right? So he hasn't created, he's like, I'm like his only friend who is encouraging in that way. So my whole idea is to reignite Steve Sacani. Steve was in the Batman movie. Like his cars were in all of the movies, and nobody knows who he is. So I just feel obligated to help him, cement his legacy, at least virtually through videos or podcasts, just, exporting everything out of his brain into a place that can live forever. So that's kind of what I'm doing with him. And then I do this with a variety of different clients. I work with a variety of people, different people, but he is the lead inspiration for everything. So
what a mission.
Yeah, it's like really an emotional thing. Like I don't really feel like this isn't something I can like choose. It was like chosen for me. And yeah.
That's awesome,
yeah,
man.
So
that's awesome. So you say so this is a skill you've been working on.
Yeah, I've been the first book I got was Think and Grow Rich. Ever. Oh. The first book I ever asked for, or it wasn't given to me from a teacher or like obligation. It was given to me, I had a substitute teacher in high school come in and say, you need to read this book, Think and Grow Rich.
So you're a big book reader?
I'm not a big book reader. I'm more of a little book reader.
A little book reader?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll scan, and I will sometimes just open a book and find one word or one sentence out of the book in the middle of the book and it's the right books. So I'm big on Neville Goddard. Do you know Neville Goddard?
Are you?
Yep.
I actually have not heard that one.
So Neville Goddard, it's Goddard, which I think is interesting because the first 3 letters of his last name is God.
Right.
And he, spent his entire life, all of his work was dedicated to teaching what he believes God to be and taught from the Bible and his own interpretation of the Bible. So, that's some of the books I'll be reading, like Awakened Imagination by Neville Goddard, on Infinite Potential. He taught me that our imagination is God. And I believe that. So I also, I don't think I know God. I think a lot of people want to believe they know God. And I personally have decided what it is. And I'm okay if I'm wrong because it's working for me. Everything I pray for to my imagination, I pray to my imagination. I create what I want in my imagination and I trust in that. And that's what it says in all the money. In God we trust.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say what God is. So how can you trust something you don't understand?
Truthfully, I think my personal opinion is it's because God's inherently within you.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're just a piece of the source.
So my mom would always say that God is in you. And I'm like, where at? In my arm? In my foot? Where at?
I would personally, it sounds super weird. And maybe it's just because I've visualized this so much. It's right here. Like I can, somehow it has a place for me right there. I don't know.
So another interesting, so that you're pointing to your heart, right?
Yeah.
So the thing about a heart is you can swap them out.
Ooh.
Right? So you can have a heart transplant, but you can't have a brain transplant.
Well, you can't have a soul transplant.
You can't have that either. But I believe the closest physical object to God is the pink brain in our heads. I truly believe that. So when I pray to God, I don't see a white bearded man up in the sky. I see a gross pink, brain, like ooey gooey brain. And that's what I imagine when I talk to God. I'm the face of it. My face is the face. And I believe that to be true for everybody. So they say, people will say, God is always here. You can't ever see him. I believe that. And us 3 sitting here, filming this podcast, we got 3 brains here. And you can't see any of them. And you can't control any of them. You can't, you have no idea, you have no way of telling what any of them are doing. They're all completely private and powerful. And without the brain, there's not much we could do. If you have brain damage, it affects everything.
I have never actually heard that. That makes a lot of sense.
So shout out to Neville Goddard. That's all Neville. And I named my firstborn son after him. Neville.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I can get behind that. That's interesting. Okay, just for the sake of workshopping this, so is it the brain itself or would it be electricity? Because your brain runs on electrical impulse.
So
I view God as more than just a stationary object.
So is electricity physical? Can you touch it?
It can touch you. Can you actually touch it though?
That's what I'm at, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So as far as a stable physical object, I have concluded for myself that it is the brain. That's good enough for me.
Just stop there for simplistic.
Yeah, that's good enough. And then whatever else, like the Wi-Fi or like the electricity, I don't know what it is, spirit, like frequency or whatever it is. I don't go there. I don't get involved with that because it's become very political, and it starts to distract from the point itself. Is most of the world doesn't know what exactly to pray to. Like they don't have a direction of where to send the prayer, send the request, right? So I send it to the brain. I don't send it up above my skull. It doesn't get above my head.
Please keep going. Yeah. Explain that.
Ask me a question. Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying you pray to your brain. I'm trying to just visualize how that would go.
I could give an example,
please.
If you want to
go for it.
So, for example, here's an example. This is something that really shook me in the beginning of this. It really made me pay attention that this was real. Neville. The first thing is that Neville said, "If this is wrong," and he said, "anything you want." imagine it had already happened and start to become familiar with the senses that you would feel if it did already happen. The emotional feeling. And he said, if I'm wrong, if it's not working for you, maybe I'm wrong. And I grew up as a kind of like a Christian, not too serious, on the holidays we'd go to a Christian church and my mom would, call herself a Christian, but it wasn't very serious. However, it was serious enough to not go to all the other churches. Like we didn't go to the temple or I don't know the names of all the different religious places, but we only went to the Christian church. And I started to become curious that when I was in high school, I switched my sophomore year to a school where there was a lot of Jewish kids. And I realized they're just like me, but it was my first real interaction with a different religious, group. I'm like, they're just like us. And I start to become curious, like, why didn't my parents let me choose my own religion? Why do I have to just go where they go? I don't know why they go there. I would like to sample a couple. It's like saying I'm going to live here because I was born here. I'm like, no, like let's go try some other states and countries and let's try them out and then decide where we want to live. So that's what I did. But the thing is that the pastors in any of the churches that I've been to, they never said, hey, if this Christian thing isn't working out for you, maybe you should go to the other church, go try a different religious group. I never heard anybody say that. So when Neville said in his book, if I'm wrong, maybe it's not, maybe there's something better. So that made me want to prove him wrong. So the first thing that was really significant and random, but not random to me, I was on a plane and I was with my friend and she was sleeping next to me and there was another person on the plane sleeping to the right of me. These two girls, left and right. They're sleeping, I'm awake. And I decided something random. I said, I'm going to manifest free wine. Very simple. Free wine for all three of us. So after I started tasting the wine on my tongue, the flight attendant starts spilling stuff all over the place. Like in the two rows in front of me, he just kept making mistakes. Like spilling, like there was juice coming out of the bottom of the orange juice. And I'm watching this after I'd already started tasting the wine. And I go, at first I'm like, what's he doing? Then I'm like, wait, something's happening. Like something is happening. Like I just kept tasting the wine. And he gets to our row and he spilled like coffee on my friend's jacket or something. And he runs to the back of the plane covering his mouth like he's going to throw up and gets replaced with a different flight attendant. And that person knew that he had just spilled stuff on. And I just said like this, how about some wine? And he goes, absolutely. How many? I said 3. He goes, okay. And runs to the back and he comes back with the wine. And he said, that was our last 3. He goes, you got lucky.
Oh my God.
And the girls are starting to wake up now and we all have wine. I don't even think I drank the wine after I got it because I already drank it. So when that happened, because that was like, I don't know, it was just very random and perfect. And I said, that's what I like. I like random and perfect. And, I met Steve following these events. And when I saw him, I said, wow, this guy does random perfectly. He perfectly does the impossible effortlessly. So he doesn't know Neville or, he's never read any of his stuff. He learned it from Walt Disney. So these are like my, my board of advisors. This is the only people I listen to.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, that's a little example of how I pray, right? So you could do this with a family member who's sick. You could pray for somebody. So if you see somebody who's sick, you start to imagine them healthy and you feel their health. So if somebody was sick, you say, oh no, and you feel like bad.
Yeah.
That's what you're feeling based on what you're believing. You believe they're sick because that's what you were told. Like if I'm holding up 5 fingers and I say there's only 3, it's like, you have to form your own opinion. So we have to remember that we can form our own opinion regardless of what we're being told, regardless of the facts. or whatever appears to be the facts. So if I see a sick person, now I've been thinking this way for about 10 years. When I see a sick person, I actually don't. I don't see sick people. I see them super healthy all the time. It's like a disease. So when I see somebody with a company that is, maybe somebody would see it struggling, I don't see that. I see it super successful. I already see it successful. There's just a couple things that need to happen. So yeah, it's does that answer the question?
No,
about,
that's phenomenal. You've got a different spin on. I'm hearing it's just because I haven't read Neville, but it's manifesting. It's the power of belief. Kind of mix in some secret to it. I have a saying on this podcast that's the truth is in the carryover, right? So if you can get different disciplines where they are saying the same thing, words can change, but it's saying the same thing. By an example, let me ask you about gratitudes. Mm-hmm. You practice gratitudes or journaling or anything like that?
I practice gratitude. Yes. I do write. I'll usually write just results of what I want. I don't get too involved with the process. That's not what I get involved with. I stay focused on tasting the wine. I stay there and allow whatever needs to happen to allow that to. I stay focused with the results, so the whole world can help make that a reality, and I just take credit for the result, not the work. Like Steve Jobs, he put all the people on the company's name on the original iPod because he didn't build it. Right. He designed the result, and they built it. Right. So I was talking to Steve, and he's like, "Yeah, I had everybody help me. Arnold Schwarzenegger helped him get approved for the missiles to go on the, live missiles that go on the Batmobile. Steve Jobs helping with the technology on." He had like AI in the Batmobile, like working AI. You could talk to it back, years ago. Steve Jobs helped him do that, and he's just taking credit for his idea, not the work. Elon Musk is similar.
I would buy that. Hold on one second, Hunter. What is your religious background?
I grew up a Mormon.
Okay.
But I had no idea or belief in a religion as a kid. I almost resented it because it was something my family pushed me into. And I understand as I got older why some of the lessons are very important, I think. For one, structure, honesty, integrity within a human is a great thing to surround yourself with. But as I've grown up, I went through not an atheist phase, but I'm not really sure. Mm-hmm. And now I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you. I'm a huge believer in creative imagination is the God that is within me. Mm-hmm. So when people say there's a higher power, I think I'm the higher power, and what I think is what I create. So that's my God to me.
So therefore, the thought is the higher power.
Correct.
The idea, not you.
Correct. Exactly. The thought and the imagination
coming from your brain,
coming from the brain, is
your
the
brain.
God.
Yeah,
Correct.
your brain. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I agree. And I kind of subliminally mentioned this to Steve, and he goes, yes, imagination and God are the same thing. That's what he says. I don't tell him, I don't try to, convince. I just let him say what his real feeling is. Yeah. And that's what he says. Yes, imagination and God are like DNA intertwined perfectly.
Like when you said you can never see God. I also don't. You can't really ever see yourself. Like what you see yourself as is just a perception of what's in the mirror, but that's not truly who you are. Yeah.
I think people get held up on the word God.
Yeah.
It is a word, right? Like this is a cup, but I could call it a book, and it would still be a cup, or it would still be something that's holding something, water or empty. Yeah. So people get held up on the word God. What if I call it Rebecca? Then what is it? People get held up on the word Jesus, in my opinion. What if we just start saying John? Then do you not know what it is anymore? You call me George. I'm still me. So people get held up on these words. It's like, what is God? What is it? How would you? This is how I would ask everybody. I went on a rampage, asking priests. I got stuck. God's funny. Universe is funny. put me on a plane with a 6-hour flight with a Christian priest. I told him, I said, look, before we start this conversation, we got to make an agreement that we're going to get off this plane as friends.
Yep.
And he says, okay. And we went for 5-6 hours. And at the end of the flight, this guy just gave me like a $300 set of headphones that he had. He just gave,
God.
I didn't even ask for them. He just gave them to me. He's like, here, I want you to have these. And he's like, I want you to remember Jesus every time you wear them. I'm like, all right, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Or how about every time you remember who you gave these headphones to, or you remember what I was telling you about imagination and all these other things.
So let me ask you a question, because I'm trying to kind of stay with you. What would be, in your opinion, what would be taking the Lord's name in vain? What would that mean to you?
The Lord's name. What does it mean to you first?
Well, okay, if you take the general Catholic, right, bare bones, they're going to say, "God damn it," is taking the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I believe that if you say "I am," and then anything that is not aligned with, like you're saying, the positive,
Yeah.
like if I said I'm a worthless piece of shit, that is taking Lord's name in vain.
Yeah. I think it's you don't want to like bring yourself lower than where you are. But I'm not a big person on that stuff. I think like somebody said, don't curse or whatever. You know, people get held up on all these things. I'm just personally here to live my dream.
Well, what I'm asking is what's the antithesis? What is the opposite? What like if I was going to attack your belief, I'm trying to form the idea. So if I was going to attack the imagination, what would be the worst thing I could say about who you believe God is? I'm not offended, and I don't believe in respect. So I believe God doesn't believe in respect. And I don't believe I'm anybody. I believe my brain is God. I believe your brain is God. Whoever's listening, I believe your brain is God, and that our bodies are working for God. Our bodies are slaves of God. That's what I believe. I want a cup. I want to pick up this cup, watch my hand go get it. Like that's how it works. So, and we all work for each other, right? So if I have an idea and I say, hey, can you hand me that pen? There goes your hand helping. You say, hey, can you hand me this piece of paper? Watch my hand go and help you get it. So I believe we're all servants of God. And if you want to do, I don't label good or bad. Like if you want to, I don't know, slap yourself in the face, for example, I don't think it's wrong. That's what God decided he wanted to do. That's what it is. That's what it is. You know, so that's what your dream is to, you know, if you want to live whatever kind of life that you want to live is perfect. If that's what you decided and you're living it based off anything being possible. If you are deciding what you chose based on anything being possible, you know that, I think that's perfect. But a lot of people don't live like that. They live based on what they think they can do. Not what's already been proven to them.
Yeah,
that's
or
what they live on.
Or like what their salary is, and they'll say, oh, based on my salary that I'm going to have in the next 12 months, I couldn't get that. And they're thinking from like this, like, it's not freedom. It's a limited
scarcity mindset.
Yeah, it's a scarcity. It's a limited perspective. And I think most people are operating from that. They're not saying, here's an example. I called Zillow the other day looking for a house. My lease ends in July at an apartment, and I want to buy a nice house. So I called Zillow, and I did not look at any houses on Zillow. I called him. The first realtor picks up because, what's your budget? I said, no, doesn't matter what my budget is. Where is the house that I told you I want? Show me the house. I want the pool and the basketball court and this and this and this, all these things that I want. Show me what it is. Show me how much it costs. That's my budget. My budget is whatever it has to be to get what I want. And he said on the phone, as soon as I start speaking like that, he said, what do you do? He goes, who are you? He goes, people don't talk like this. He goes, but this is the correct way to speak. So that's the way to think that way. What do I want? And you reverse engineer it that way. How do I get it? The how is not the beginning. That's what people get hung up on, the how. It's what. What do I want? Why do I want it? It's hard to say why you want something you haven't identified. People want to start with the why. You can't start with a why always. I want to drink water. There you go. Somebody will say, why? Because I'm thirsty. That's why. So you have to have a what first. What do I want to create, and why do I want to create it? So that's what I think is the most important thing, is to get rid of any how, completely eliminate that when you're building your life and creating your the reality of the future. Everything in the future is brand new. It's never happened yet. So there's no limitations in the future. There's no judgment there. So like a kid, they don't think, how can I get that toy? How many hours do I got to work? How many deals do I got to close to get another toy? They just want another toy. They don't care if their mom buys it for them, their dad, the neighbor gets dropped off from a helicopter and just falls in the front lawn. They just want to play with the toy. And that's what I practice. I don't get caught up in who's getting it. I just want it. And I'll allow an alien to bring it to me. It doesn't make a difference. So I think if people started thinking this way and started playing, going to the toy store more, go hang out at Ferrari. You want a Ferrari, go hang out at the dealership. That's what I was doing. I've been going to the dealership the past 2 months. I go hang out at downtown Salt Lake City dealership, and we just made a marketing video for their Instagram from just hanging out there. But in the beginning, when I first started going there, I felt I didn't feel like I deserved it. I didn't feel like they were for me. You go there 10 times, you start feeling. Now I leave there, when I first started going, I felt like, oh man, I wish I could go home with one of these. Now I'm like, these cars are fine right here. It's not something I feel like I can't have. It just feels like, do you want to have a soda or a water? And you lose this. There's a lot of excitement in going after something you think you can't have, I think. So when you feel like you could have it, and you know it's yours before you get it, you have this different energy and different connection with it. You're not chasing it anymore. It's more or less a part of you. And I think a lot of people don't visit their dreams. They don't even visit them. They won't go look at the house. They won't go around the car. They won't go around the people. And when you go around these things, that is what increases the frequency, actually being around it. You don't have to buy. You just need to feel. And once you get to a certain amount of money, everything is just an emotion. Mm-hmm. The money doesn't even exist after a certain point. So a lot of people say, you can go do this at the dollar store. You want to feel like you can have everything? Go bring $50 to the dollar store. You get it whatever you want. And that's how you kind of warm up to the bigger things. Go warm up at the dollar store. Go warm up at Walmart. Go work, go get everything in the clearance section. And you feel like, wow, I could have anything. That's the feeling that we need to maintain all the time, the majority of the time. How do we always stay full like that? And I think the way that we mess it up is we go around things we don't believe that we can have, and then we feel bad. There's two ways that you could feel about what you want, right? You could feel like you're going to get it, or you could feel like you're never going to have it. And if you feel like you're never going to have it, you're depressed. And if you feel like you're going to have it or that it's yours, you feel fulfilled, grateful, and happy. So it's not just what do you want, but it's how do you feel in relationship to what you want? What's your relationship with that house that you want? What is it right now? Most people, it's not very good, So anyway, yeah, I just wanted to share that. That was that's a practice.
I think the more you're in tune with our five senses, your touch, your taste, your smell, you see the other one. Anyways, if I can, like you said, if I can feel the leather of a Lamborghini seat and I can smell the fresh interior car coming off the factory line, and you can do this in any sort of sector in your life, and you can be at home sitting in a chair closing your eyes and you can still smell it and you can still feel it and you can hear it. It's inevitable. These things are welcomed into your life at that time. And they will come because you're always attracting that type of behavior across the line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You said so much there. There's a lot to unpack. I am fully of the opinion that I am completely in control over this bag of flesh here.
Yeah, it works for you.
It does. I haven't been sick in 10 years. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in it. I don't have time. I don't really believe in being tired. It's
Well,
a state of mind.
You don't want to be.
Yeah.
It's not your desire.
Right.
Some people have that desire.
In the same breath, to go down that path, if you want a Ferrari, there's ways to do it.
Yeah.
If you don't have one, it's because you actually don't want it bad enough.
Or you just don't want it. And you couldn't be able to have one, and you could still not have one.
Right.
I said to a lawyer in my building a couple days ago, I said, you would look really good in a Rolls Royce. And he said, oh, no, I don't need a Rolls Royce. I said, let's go back to like what I just said to you. You would look good in a Rolls Royce. Nobody said you need anything. But you telling me you don't need one makes me feel like you don't know how to get one. Somebody could have 5 Rolls Royces and say the same thing he said. Oh, I don't need a Rolls Royce. But that's not how he said it. You don't need one. You don't need anything. You don't need to be here at all. I don't need to be here at all. So when you realize this is all a choice, we could get out of this life whenever you want. It's a very easy eject button, so every morning we choose to stay. That's the choice. We choose to breathe again. We choose. You can just hold your breath.
Yeah. And you choose how to live.
Yeah. So everything at that point, Walt Disney is like, this guy built worlds. He built worlds, so he could do that. And Steve was I just love Steve so much. He goes, Nick, the world doesn't believe in dreams anymore. They don't believe anything is possible anymore. And he said, that's the problem with the world. I said, I know. I need you to help me with that.
What's so crazy about that, though, is no, they don't. Nobody believes anything is possible because you can Google anything right now, and whatever Google says, is what it is.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, 3/4 of everybody on the planet or in the country right now is wrapped up into an imaginary world that doesn't exist either.
Yeah.
Where you can kind of do whatever you want. Limiting beliefs are all over the place. And then the one other thing that we see, especially when you get into the older guys, that worthiness thing.
Mm-hmm.
Life has a way of beating that out of you.
Yeah. And I'm watching Steve get it beat out of him right now. Like, yeah, he's like dying. Like, this guy's like getting beat up by the world because he doesn't have he doesn't have these people around him to support him. And when you get a little older, you become a little more weary, a little more tired, and you just put up with it. So
that's the epidemic that's happening in the older, and I'm saying older as in kind of 40s on up. Men, and one of the things that they used to do is collaborate and talk, and he had friends, and you'd build your network up.
Yep.
Right now, you have to invent something crazy to get guys to actually get around and have conversations with each other.
Yeah.
Guys are lonely, which is part of the belief. If you get your group of your buddies around, all of a sudden you guys are going to invent and do whatever it is that you're going to do. Yeah.
And I think we have to be, like, personally in my own life, I'm just really selfish with my energy. I used to I would allow a relationship where I'm cooperating, but the other person isn't. And I no longer allow anything that isn't cooperating with my dreams. I delete it like an app on my phone. I delete it. Like, that's not gonna help here. So I just delete it. I operate from the future. I operate from my imagination. So anything that I'm doing on a daily basis is for the future. It's it's another block, another brick laid for that, that future picture that I have. And I think most people hold a vision of the past in their mind, and they wonder, why does this keep happening over and over again? It's because you're thinking about what happened already. Mm-hmm. There's no way something different could happen. It has to happen again.
It's really and truly, I don't believe in therapy for that exact reason. Yeah. All therapy does is you just keep stirring up and ruminating over things in the past. I'm not talking about major traumas. There is a point and place, but for your everyday stuff, no.
Yeah, it's like my car, I got in a car accident. My car is totaled. Okay. We could talk about like that whole situation, or we could just talk about the car you prefer to have.
Yeah. What are you going to get out of this?
Ride a bike or something. Like, cool. Well, now what? What are you going to do tomorrow? And if you could figure out something to do tomorrow that makes you really happy, the other thing dissolves.
So, okay. So we've got this project right here that you're in the middle of, okay?
Yeah.
You got Steve that we're going to do sounds like you're going to do basically a documentary, not necessarily like a documentary, but you're going to document as much as you possibly can.
Yeah.
That will eventually end. Talk to us about your future. What is the point of all of this for you?
So I would like to run for president in 2032 because I believe I could very easily communicate with other world leaders and we can connect on this idea. And I would love to share this idea of God with the whole world and help making this somewhat of a law to where you cannot choose another religion. I don't understand how we could all, there has to be something. And I believe the higher powers, the highest powers, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They know that what I'm saying is the truth. And if they're listening right now, like they know this is the truth. So this is the cure to everything. This is, people, they have all these different diets, different cures and medicines. No, the secret is prayer and knowing what to pray to and how to pray. Most people don't know how to pray. Mm-hmm. You just create an image in your mind, in your imagination of what you prefer, and you delete every other outcome besides the one you want. So therefore, it becomes very simple, and you're not trying to get everything. I heard a quote the other day. Somebody said it to me. He said, "You can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want." So most people, you say, "What do you want?" They'll start listing things they don't want. That's not what the question was.
It is amazing how often you can ask people that and they do go to what they don't want.
Immediately. And you could even say, don't talk about what you don't want when I ask you this question. What do you want?
Well, it's the pink elephant. You can't do that.
And they do it again. They go, oh, and they can't say, no, just what you want. Because people have a list of things they don't want, but it's usually one thing they want. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
So if you just attach belief to that one thing and start not believing in all the other things, just let them all go. That's the only option you're giving God to give you. You tell somebody, I only want this. I don't want any other gifts. Don't bring me any other gifts. So you're either going to get nothing or exactly what you want, which is both perfect. You're still not with anything you don't want. So you have to be willing to say, I'm okay with nothing for now. I'm waiting for the thing I ordered. I'm going to stay here until it comes. And you're not going to grab the leaves on the tree, or bite the apple like Adam did. We're going to wait. Just, so that's, I think we're all doing that. So everybody's life is perfect. Because if you're thinking about the past, you're praying for it. Prayer and thought, idea, thought, imagination, prayer, request, asking. These are all all synonyms of each other. So when you're imagining this terrible thing that happened 10 years ago in your past, that is what you're praying for. So congratulations. Now start to get excited about that terrible thing about to happen again, because it's coming. Get excited about it. My life's going to go to shit again. Or if something happened in the past that made you really happy, maybe there was a year or two where it was the best years of your life. Hold on to those years. Only think about them. But feel like it's happening now. Don't feel like it's behind you. Steal the emotions from the memory and just feel it now. So that's what I was telling Steve. I said, remember how you felt when you were designing these things? I said, yeah. I said, can you remember it? Can you feel it? He's like, yeah, I feel it. It was amazing. And telling me all these different stories. And before you know it, he starts speaking like the younger Steve, I would guess. He forgot. And I said, did anybody else talk to you like this on the phone? He goes, no. I said, cool. So I think we should do this more. He's like, yeah. I said, cool. That's what I'm here for. I got you. We're going to keep this going. Like, we're going to let go of all the other relationships, Steve. All the people that aren't cooperating with you and aren't grateful for you. We're going to let them all go, okay? And he goes, okay. So yeah, a lot of people are carrying around a lot of dead weight, working hard for people that don't appreciate it. They want what you're giving them, but they don't want it from you.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you specifically stay grounded and in the moment, living for today, while focused so so far ahead on your future in a daily basis?
So that's a good question. There's probably a lot of people wondering like that. I don't see it far away.
Sure.
I don't see it it's not far. It's actually here. It's already real. It's already done. I'm not waiting. I'm not waiting for anything to happen. It already happened. It's like knowing, it's like we saw the movie premiere. Say one of you guys are coming out with a movie and it's coming out in 3 months, and we just watched the official movie premiere tonight. And you'll say, well, how do you feel about this thing that's going to happen 3 months from now? It already happened. It already is done. I'm on to the next thing already. So I'm working from there now. I'm adding to the picture now. I'm here now, adding to the picture right now. For example, like I thought I wanted the car from Lamborghini. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Nope, let's delete that. Let's make our own car. Let's go design our own car. It's Steve Sacani. So I'm constantly editing it, and I like to stay in this creative process. And my mentor, Steve, told me, dream a dream so big that you can never finish it. Right? So I love that because I'm in no rush. I know I start the process knowing I could never finish it. So the idea of rushing to finish it doesn't exist because it's not possible. Right? So if it's not possible to finish, like if I can't get to home base, why do I need to rush to first?
It's a good point.
I just start feeling like what it would feel like. I might as well just stay here and imagine having run around the bases. What would it feel like? How do I want to run around the bases and just stay home all the time? And before you know it, when you feel like something is done, you're closing the gap yourself. You feel like something's going to take a while. It usually does. But when you decide you don't care, it tends to happen automatically. It just disappears, just automatically falls into place. So I try to stay in a place where I care, but not that much. I really want all that stuff, but I really don't care that much either.
You're so fascinating to talk to. I love it.
So constantly in imagination, I have the home, or I have this or that, or the business, or this, or I how many times have I imagined waking up and being in the Oval Office? How many times have I imagined that? Enough times to not care about it anymore. Enough times for it to happen and to not ever smile when somebody says congratulations, and to just be straight on focus on the work. Like, I don't think it's cool to be present. I'm like super eager to do what needs to be done. So the excitement goes away, and you're just left with the physical objects because the emotions are already here. There's nothing that's going to happen when I get there because they're already there.
Interesting.
Yeah. So then you can make proper decisions on what you want to do because you're not guessing. You're not assuming what the feeling is going to be. You already know. I wonder how it's going to feel. All right, well, let's see. In imagination. Oh, it feels good. This part didn't. Okay.
It's very interesting. I was a professional baseball player. I think I told you right before we walked out here, and I can't tell you how many home runs I've hit in my head.
Yeah.
Millions upon millions upon millions. And you're right. You do get to where when you hit one in the game, it doesn't even seem like congratulations for what? I've done this so many times. Yeah. You don't even think about it. But how do you cope with, like, I ran in, because what you're asking, this was my entire mindset about baseball, all of it. And it kind of ruined me because you reach a point, I physically didn't have the tools.
Yeah.
I took it as far as I possibly could. So all the visualization, all of everything, and my mind was so hardened to, there is nothing else other than this. I'm talking like
other than baseball.
Other than baseball.
Yeah.
I was going to make it to the show. That was it.
You did.
I made it to AA. I didn't make it to the show.
Did you want to?
Yes. More than anything in the world.
I mean, after you got to AA, did you still want to?
Oh, yeah.
When did this feeling change?
It never did.
Is it still present?
Yeah.
You still wish you did?
Oh, hell yeah.
And what was it?
I feel like a failure because of it.
What was it that you wanted? Like, what was it that you feel like you didn't get?
I didn't make it to the show, which would be the guys you see on TV. Made it in the minors.
Okay. And when did you decide to let that dream go?
They told me it was over.
Okay.
They told me I was too old and it was over.
Was there ever a point in time where you started imagining if this didn't work out, what you would do?
To that point?
Before
No.
that? Did you ever have any thoughts?
Yes, but when I say, like, truly, everything in my life, everything that I did was for this. It never crossed my mind that I wouldn't make it.
Did you ever imagine what you would do after doing that? That's part of the process. That's the most important part.
Okay, walk me through that.
What are you going to do after you are successful? What are you going to do after you've accomplished it? That's the belief.
Oh, are you talking about like retirement, or are you talking about
Say
like playing in the...
For example, you play in the MLB for 5 years professionally. Like you said, you made it to the show.
Right.
Was there ever a point in time where you imagined what you would do after that?
I was going to coach baseball after that.
Coach like in the MLB?
No, actually, truthfully, because I figured I would have made the money I need, I was going to coach junior college baseball. And very specifically for that, you get up to NCAA, there's rules on time and whatnot. The most raw, perfect place to just go in and work is junior college. So that's what my goal was.
Did that feel more enjoyable than playing in MLB?
No.
Yeah, so your ladder's broken. You already reached it. So you were fucked if you were to do that. You would become depressed after that. Something like that. You just told us you would. You just said, after I finish the MLB, you're going to take a step down in as far as fulfillment. And I look at you now doing this podcast.
What?
And I would ask you this. Do you there's no way to know for sure, but do you feel like you enjoy what you're doing now more than the coaching thing that you were going to do after the MLB?
Oh, absolutely not.
Do you feel like you're enjoying this more than...
No, coaching would have been...
You would rather coach over...
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, but that's interesting. You know why that's interesting? Because you told me before this podcast started, what did you tell me about how you feel about it? This is the what?
This is...
The greatest thing you've ever done is this podcast.
Oh, in terms of everything, like lining and meeting people, this is the best I've had.
Well, you met people playing baseball.
Yeah.
But you said, this is the best thing. You said, this is the best thing you've ever done. Period. There was no like meeting people. It just, you said, this is the best thing you've ever done.
We're going to have some fun here because we're just going to go there. All right. So like when I mentally, because of everything that we've talked about, okay, baseball to me is, there was like a death. It's like a whole different life that happened back then. To go down the mindset, to hear everything that you're saying, I'm talking 24/7, around the clock. That's how my mind was. There was nothing like, this is one mission and going.
Yes.
So I don't, and then part two, it's only been in the last year that I would even wear a hat like this.
I have a question for you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Did you ever think how you would feel if it didn't work out?
It never crossed my mind that I wouldn't make it.
Do you think there was somewhere in your mind that you felt that you would be really lost and sad if it didn't work out?
No.
Well, there was nothing prepared if it didn't work out.
No, because part of all the coaching and teaching that I had is, like you just said,
yeah,
eliminate all other scenarios.
Yeah, all other scenarios of feeling like shit.
Well,
that's
to me, that was the only thing that I could do without feeling like shit.
So some of the practice is taking away everything you want to make sure and checking if you would be okay without it, right? So I want this big old mansion. I want this $10 million mansion. I'm going to feel so happy and grateful in it. But let's say I get it. I live in it for 2 years and then I lose it. How would you feel after you lost it? Most people don't do this. And God takes the thing away because you think that's what's making you feel so good. But it's not. It's just your beliefs and your emotions and whatever they're connected to. So sometimes God will take away what we think is making us happy to show us it's not the thing. It's you. You created the thing. Your brain and your imagination created the opportunities you have in baseball. Not baseball. It's more about you.
Okay, keep going. Walk me through that.
So what I do constantly is, like I said, I will give myself what I want in imagination. I'll get real happy, and then I'll take it away. And then the more I go back and forth with this, the more neutral my energy becomes, to where you could take anything from me and I don't change any way that I feel at all. I'm completely stable. You can't scare me with taking it away. You can't take it. So sometimes, when like a kid, he has a toy and you could take the toy and he's like, give it back. Well, a really cool kid lets you take it and he just goes and plays with another toy. That's the kind of kids I like to, go play with the other toy. I'll play with this. You could play with a different toy. So you may not have had another toy that you enjoyed. All of your emotion and everything was all in on baseball. But there's more to life than baseball.
Yeah.
Right? So there are probably many things that could give you a similar feeling, but you may not have been open to that. Because the reality is you'll probably be good at a couple different sports.
Yeah.
This is just it's just a practice that most people don't do.
So how would you have corrected it?
If I were talking to you then?
Yeah.
I would ask you questions like, what would happen if you didn't make it to the MLB? How would you feel?
And my answer at the time would have been, I'm going to make it.
Right.
There was no.
See, so I would say, play with me.
Okay.
Just for fun. Imagine you didn't.
I'm trying to go put myself, back in that. Okay.
So that's what I would ask you. And it might take some time to think about that. You see, it almost became like a job, baseball. It wasn't no longer a choice because it was the only option that you made. So part of choosing anything is remembering anything. You could choose anything. The part of choosing something is remembering you could choose anything, and they're all perfect. But you forgot that. You forgot that. So God wanted to remind you of that it's all good. Life is all good. Because let's happen, he takes away your leg. Say it didn't happen like that. It didn't happen. They told you you're done. Let's say you're swinging a bat. You break. I don't know. You break something, or you get hurt.
Yeah.
You slip and fall, and you can't play the way you used to play. It could happen anyway. It just happened to be the way that it happened to you. But the moral of the story is it got taken away. And then how was the reaction? How did you react to it getting taken away? Like, what was the next days and weeks, months? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was truly like mourning a death.
Okay.
And it took me quite a while to, like, I went through all of the stages of grief with it.
Yeah.
And you had to hit the drawing board again to kind of reinvent what you're doing.
You had to die.
Basically,
and create
it was
a brand new version of yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it took you a little while to die.
Yes.
So the faster you die, the faster you are brand new. It says in the Bible to die daily. So if you would have died that first night after you got told no, you would have woke up and had a completely different picture of yourself. And baseball would no longer be the leading idea you have because it's dead. So what I do, you said it's like mourning a death. Mom and Dad, I am sorry, but this is what I do. I do imagine, because I know deaths really had people come off their path and become very distracted and depressed. So I have practiced many times everybody dying, even me. I literally, even my kids, I have 2 kids. I imagine what life would be like without everybody in my life frequently. Therefore, when I remember they're still here, I'm so grateful that they're here. But I'm also grateful that they were here. They were here. And I constantly have both thoughts simultaneously flowing in my brain. Steve is here and not here. That's why I'm so urgent with helping him, because he's almost not here. So it's very special. Every moment is special. So I grew up playing sports. My dad wanted me to be a professional athlete. I think baseball was a sport that he wanted me to play. He was a baseball player, and he felt like he didn't get the support from his dad, whatever his thing was, to go and play. And he would tell me, he was actually, I guess my dad was my first mentor. He would tell me getting out of the truck to play like football, he'd say, before the play starts, imagine what it would feel like to score. He just said, see yourself scoring. He didn't say imagine, see yourself scoring. And I say, okay. So that became the only thing that I would do. I no longer focused on how to catch a ball or how to run. I only thought about scoring and crossing the white line. That was it. And what he did to me, I said, well, that worked. So then I would start choosing, I played lacrosse. I said, well, what's the most valuable, easy position to play? I take face-offs. So I literally, in high school, I had an award for like the most face-offs won ever in like the school's history or whatever. And I would imagine, I'm like, how could I go to college for free and like play sport? Like, what's the easiest way I could do it? I pick this position, we get control of the ball, and I get off the field. I win the face-off, I'd pass it to the guy, and I just walk off. I say, I don't want to play any other position, coach. I just want to do this. So he started, I didn't have to run in practice anymore. He would let me just go literally. I would be rolling around on the turf field by myself in like my pink cleats, rolling around, laying on the floor. And and my coach would protect me, and they say, "Why isn't he?" They say, "Nick's practicing face-offs over there." And I'm like, literally, like, I don't know what I was doing, like stretching or looking at the sky or whatever, like imagining what I'm gonna do when I get home, like, because I already won all the face-offs. So I would go to bed and I would listen to the whistle at night and listen to the different cadences on YouTube. I found this like 30-minute loop, different, down, set, go. Down, so all these different things. So when I came to face off, I have a trigger set up in my brain that knows how to do this thing. But what happened was I got so good at the face offs that I knew I could go to any school my junior year. That's how I played for travel teams in South Jersey. It's where I grew up. And I got so good that I knew if I kept doing this, that I would become the best at this. And then I asked myself, do I want to become the best at that? At picking up the ball off of the ground? Do I want to be the best ball picker-upper in lacrosse? And I said, hell no. Oh no, I see where this is going. If I keep going down this path, I'm going to be the best ball picker-upper ever in lacrosse. Jeez, I'm like, hold on. I said, Dad, I'm done, dude. So what happened was I started applying that same mindset and that same process to life. And I just started imagining the results. And I roll around in the grass essentially while I probably should be, I don't know what I should be doing, but that's what I do. And that's what's been happening in business and in life. If I want to live somewhere, I imagine scoring. I imagine getting across the line. I imagine living in the home. And then it just happens. All in my mind. And yes, of course, things happen. Like we're on this podcast right now. Like it's not like we're not doing anything. But when you're aligned, like it's like a boat, I guess. Like if it's tied to something, or if somebody's pulling the boat, it has to end up where the person is standing from where they're pulling it from. So that's like our life is if we anchor ourselves in the dream that we want, in the future result, we just anchor it there. We must end up there. We must. So I anchor myself beyond my own life to where I can't even see the end, but I know it's the best of the best of the best. It is the heaven that they talk about in the Bible. That's where my destiny is. And I just decide that's where I'm not only ending up, but that's where I am. And if I'm in heaven, I should be feeling good and everything must be perfect and everything must be happening for a perfect reason. So I believe when something happens, like what happened with you with baseball, it is simply God opening your eyes. That's all it is. Just showing you more. It's like being at a buffet and like you didn't see the other side of the buffet. You're just like looking at this. You're like, oh, this looks up. I'm like, hold on, wait until I show you the other food. Most people get so locked in on just one thing rather than one picture. So I look at one picture. My dad tried to have me focus on controlling my vision, controlling the picture to being a sport. And I said, hold on. I said, Dad, Look at all the athletes. Look at them all. There's a lot. I said, so if I make it to the MLB, if I make it to the NFL, you're going to have a lot of other people, other parents that can relate to you. And I don't really feel special. I wouldn't feel very special if I'm just like all the other kids that made it. I don't want to be another one. I want to be the only one. I told Steve, you set the bar pretty damn high. And Walt. I said, you guys are crazy. I got Walt Disney over here making worlds, you making like spaceship cars. And I said, I got to do something to keep the trilogy, going. He's like laughing on the phone. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah.
Good luck with that one.
He's like, no, I get it. So like that, I said, if I could accomplish that, I would end up being the only version of myself. Like there isn't another, there's not another Steve Sacani or another Walt Disney. So that's the group that I fell into. I fell into a group of individuals who are unique. So yeah, I think that's what happened for you. It happened for you, and you thought that was going to be the best that it was.
So God does there is a higher source than just praying into the brain.
Well, God and fear, you see fear, like hate and love are similar.
Yeah.
Fear, what's the opposite of fear? What do you say?
Opposite of fear, confidence.
Confidence. So, or desire. Like, so fear, maybe fear, desire, fear, confidence. God doesn't know he doesn't really care like if you like it or not. He knows how intense your feelings are about it. So if you feel like the only thing that you could have is you're like afraid almost to not, if you were afraid to not become a professional athlete, professional baseball player, that's like on a level you must have been subconsciously. Like if you go all in on like, roulette, all in on black, there's somewhere in your mind that it could be fucking red. Like there is a part somewhere that.
Well, I do believe we're still human, right? I'm just saying from a practice of when I say there was nothing else that I could do, I mean that. Like
that's what you thought.
Well, even down to my conscience right now. Okay, the one thing I can say about all of it, there was nothing that I didn't try. I went to this is a different podcast for a different day, okay? But I went as far as you could possibly doing it, down to traveling across the country. You want to talk about like manifesting stuff, knocking on doors of people that GMs, and trying to do everything in my available power to make that happen. There was not a stone that I didn't turn over.
Do you believe in luck?
Yeah. I think luck is something that appears more when you are aligned with what you want. If you wanted to feel good, you didn't want to play in the MLB. You wanted to be really happy and proud of yourself and be fulfilled. If you got to the MLB and you were not fulfilled and you weren't happy once you got there, would you start freaking out and be like, whoa, like, why am I not feeling as good as I thought I would?
I would have, yeah.
That could have happened.
That could have happened.
Right?
Yeah.
So maybe that would have happened.
Perhaps.
So maybe God just helped you out.
Maybe.
And he avoided that for you.
I mean, you totally, because again, it came out and I had to switch gears and find new stuff. And you do, kids kind of way more important than whatever I was doing with baseball.
And you have other gifts other than swinging a bat and catching a ball and throwing a ball.
Yeah.
What are they?
I can build businesses. I have phenomenal ideas. I'm with you on that.
So do you think you would be doing what you're doing now if you had gone to the MLB?
The only thing I would say on that, no. Would I be doing what I'm doing right now if I went to the MLB? No.
Are you happy doing what you're doing?
I'm quite confident I would have been happier in the MLB.
Happier?
Yes.
Would you ever
to say?
Are you open to letting that belief go?
Oh, I'm past this now. This is just the closest that
I'm asking how you feel like right now.
Oh, right now, yeah. Baseball's gone. Yeah, I have enjoyed what I'm doing.
You
absolutely.
But if you would go back, you still would want to go to the MLB.
Sure.
Why?
it was to
You know,
I don't know.
You know, you're good enough. Do you believe that you were good enough to go to the MLB?
Yeah.
Okay. And you've already hit home runs and
Yes.
you've done all the things that you would do there. So what was the part that you feel like you didn't get? Money or recognition or?
It was my number one love. I wanted a 10-year career in baseball and then retire, and I would go and coach baseball. But to put this into a little perspective for you, 5, 6, 7 years old, other kids were playing and whatnot. They used to have a magazine called Baseball Express back before phones and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
6, 5, 6, do you really?
Yeah.
I used to carry Baseball Express around. It was glued to my hand.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I did was for baseball. I really didn't play as a kid.
Yeah.
I was either, I had 4 little brothers and sisters, I was being a big brother, or I was playing baseball. That was it.
Was there anything else in your life that you've lost that you thought you would never lose? Or only baseball?
This is my big one.
Well, what's another
I'm
one?
sure there's
Any other idea that you committed to and saw associated yourself with?
I don't have anything
Like
other
a
than my
relationship
daughter and my current relationship.
Like, was there a girl that you thought you were going to marry, or you
Sure,
didn't?
but I broke up with all of them for baseball.
Mm-hmm. But there was a point in time where you thought you were going to marry one of the girls that you broke up with.
I could have, but it wasn't because I wasn't willing to give up the baseball.
But that's
gear.
a very committed belief. Like, that's a eternal belief to marry somebody,
Mhm.
and then it got let go of.
Yeah.
For whatever the reasons are,
Mhm.
right? So you also broke up with baseball for something else. And you could break up with somebody because their dad says you guys can't see each other anymore. And if you come here, I'm going to call the police. So you could break up. You happened to break up with her that way, but it could have happened in a way where it wasn't your choice. It could have just happened, and you would still have been in the relationship that you're in now. However it were to happen. Get on to the next thing. So the universe or God broke you up with baseball, and now this is your new relationship, for example, right? So here you are, and it doesn't look like an accident based on, the way this looks and feels. It doesn't feel like you're I don't get from you, unless you were to tell me, I don't feel like you're not in the right place.
I'm with you 100%. It's stuff happens for a reason.
So even this conversation, and that's what I do. There's things that happened in my life recently where, I thought I would marry both my kids' moms. I don't feel that way anymore. I have a completely different idea. And the more I look ahead, the more I fall in love with that, the more that makes sense. But if I look back, I thought I was going to do this and and why isn't it happening? So why did it happen? And I start saying, just training myself to think, and I do this constantly. So when something that I put a video on my Instagram about this, and I say, when I was younger and something weird was happening, or something I thought was wrong or bad or incorrect, I would think, I would say that's not good. This is going to be bad. But if I remember back to what I really prayed for, what I really wanted to feel, and I have to be really honest with myself, what were my deepest, darkest feelings and desires that if I really look there, and what I was talking to myself about for the past couple of days or weeks or months or years, usually the results that are here are aligned with what I've been praying for. But sometimes we got to look back a little further to see why something is happening. And as I get older, or as I have more experience, age is irrelevant to anybody listening. It's experience. You could be 10 years old and have gone nowhere, or you could be 10 years old having traveled to 10 different countries, or you could be 100 years old and haven't traveled nowhere. You could have never left your home you grew up in, that you were born in. So experience. As I gain more experience, when things start breaking down and falling apart, I start to become really happy. Anytime you build a new house where there was an old one, you have to knock down the old one. And 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a better one in place of the old one. So when I start seeing my life break down in areas, I become really curious and I stay still so I can hear and feel what is replacing that. Because God doesn't make mistakes. We are controlling that. So we are that powerful. And what the craziest thing that I'm going to tell you is, You did it to yourself somehow, which is the most insane thing that you'll probably ever hear, and probably anybody will ever tell you. You jumped off. It must have been pressure, whatever it was that kicked you off of it, right? So sometimes when we squeeze, my mom said this to me the other day, when you squeeze something too tight, it breaks.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do this practice. Is why I'm saying, like, in imagination, I'll squeeze it, I'll feel it, then I'll drop it in imagination. Oh, and I might pick it up again, but more gently. Pick it up, more carefully. Drop it again to the point to where it's floating. I don't want it until it's floating, until I don't have to manage it. It coexists with me, the mansion or the business or the relationship. It's incredibly cooperative to where there's nothing I could do to stop it. I could say, I don't want this, and I still there, keep coming back. I don't want this anymore. Keeps coming back. So that's the practice that I don't think a lot of people are doing. And this is a fun practice because in imagination, you can have anything, or you could have nothing. Even if you have everything in physical reality, you can imagine you have nothing. You could be in a jail cell, imagine being at the beach, or you could be at the beach, imagine being in a jail cell. And whatever one you're imagining overrides the physical reality. You feel the one you're imagining, not the one that's existing. So, there might have been a level of fear, and God gives us what we really want or what we really don't want. So you might have really wanted to go to the MLB, but you might have also really been afraid to not go. And based on what you're saying, anytime you only, and also expectation, you don't want to expect. You either have it or you don't. There are the haves and the have-nots, not the expecting and the not expecting. That's not a thing. So expecting it to happen proves you don't know it happened already or not, which changes the frequency, right? I walk in a Ferrari. Now, people look, which one did you get? What? Like, they just feel that way. Like, I don't have any anxiety around it. There's no stress. There's no pressure. I could take none or all. I feel the same way either way. I'll probably ride my bicycle around. I don't want to touch any of them. Like, to get to that place, I say that all the time. Somebody say, I used to say I want a jet, and now I say I want two. And now I say I'm going to have a couple jets and probably ride my bike around the airport, around them, ride my bicycle, and then get an Uber and go home. So I play with these ideas to where nobody can control me or make me, well, what if it could scare you if I asked you this while you were on your pursuit to go into the MLB? How would you feel if you didn't make it? Scary question. You don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
So if you did, you think about, it's like Michael Jordan. He did the NBA, then he goes and does the MLB, just to play with it. He just wanted to play with it. Let's see if it's really this. Is it really this? No, it could do this too if I wanted to. This is more fun. Maybe this is more fun. But he could make it fun. He could make something else fun. And I think that's the point, is to be more playful, to take it. I could do this or that. I'll be equally happy, but this is what I choose. I could have steak or chicken. I really want steak, or I really want chicken. You don't have to say why. I just do. They both make me feel equally good. I'm just feeling this one. So we can create options also. So what would have helped you? This is not sound advice at this point, but for somebody else out there who, so for example, I met this kid in my gym, and he's like 6 something, like perfect and basketball body style, right? And he told me, I met him in the hot tub, and he's telling me that he's playing college basketball, or he's about to go to college. He's in high school. He's going to go play in college. I said, think about this. I said, what are you going to do after you make it to the NBA? He's like, what? I said, yeah, like, are you going to have a charity, or like, what are you going to do? Like, when you're not playing in the game, like, what do you got, some kids, or like, what do you do? Like, what do you do with your free time? And he's like, what? I said, yeah, if you said you want to go to the NBA. He's like, yeah. I said, so, okay, then what are you going to do? I didn't say, and he goes, huh. I said, so become more obsessed with the charity than playing basketball, because that's beyond it. Think about what you'll do after the workout, and I'm sure you'll have a workout. Think about what you'll do after the hard work, after you become successful, and I'm sure you'll become successful if you become obsessed with beyond, after. And I learned this from somebody by the name of Ram Dass. You know Ram Dass? Ramdass. He's like a spiritual guru guy. And he had this lecture on YouTube. It's called Beyond Success. And he was talking to a room full of super successful, elite level people who all, don't need to work anymore. They don't need money anymore. Money doesn't do it. You can't get another car, nothing changes. Get another house, nothing changes. All feeling the same way. And now these people are dealing with, now what? There's nothing else doing it for them, and they want to feel better. They want to get more dopamine, and another car is not going to do it. Another house, another jet, another plane, another $10 million. None of these things are going to do it. Diamond necklace, another island, another vacation. None of them are going to do it. Another massage or whatever. It's not going to do it. So it was a group of people. I would listen to them when I was like 16, 17 years old. And he would talk to this group. So when I started my personal development stage, I started with somebody talking to people who were already done. And I realized they were having like these issues, like, for example, the one guy, he was a very successful guy, very wealthy. He had this issue with one of his, I think his wife got sick and she was in the hospital for a while. And that became his biggest fear. He was like, I don't like going around sick people. And, he became very depressed having to go to the hospital to visit her. And this completely threw him off. So that was it. He no longer had a money problem or a car or houses or success. It was this other thing that has nothing to do with any of the things that he thought were important. And he had to completely rewire himself. And he, so I talk to a lot of people from that perspective. I send them right to the end because it's not, you don't got to worry about, can you get a Rolls Royce? The question is, can you pay for the tire after it goes flat? That's something can you pay for the oil changes? This isn't about getting $300,000 to buy a Rolls Royce. You're going to need another 50 for unless, anybody listening, yes, we know there are included warranties and you don't have to worry about that stuff for a little while. But in theory, okay, get one without a warranty from Facebook Marketplace, okay? Right? Somebody be like, well, there's a warranty. Somebody would say that. But, think about that and think about past it. Well, what about if you had it for 2 years? Then would you sell it or would you keep it? Would you like to keep it and store it as a vintage, kind of collectible, or are you going to sell it? You're going to flip it? And a lot of people don't think about after I do the thing. And it's a really fun place to be because at that point, when you're doing that, you really feel like anything is possible because you're beyond all the possibilities. You're after it, so that's why I wanted to ask you that. I thought that was interesting.
So go beyond.
Yeah, go beyond.
Something funny about this story is, what do you do now outside of this job?
Which part?
What is it?
Baseball?
You coach baseball now?
Yeah.
Dude, you ended up in the same spot.
Yeah.
God's like, you don't need this to get what you want. So we take it away. And you didn't know that? You didn't know that. So who's going to show you?
It's got to be the big guy.
There's no way that you were going to stop.
No, God, no. I literally was going to put myself into an early grave.
Yeah, hell yeah.
So
you don't look like you're dead,
but not even close, man.
You look amazing.
Just getting warmed up.
Hey, you're drinking the best water on the planet.
That's right.
Shout out. What's the name of the company?
Innovive.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, man, listen, this was fantastic. We have to find an off ramp here somewhere. So.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, brother, for inviting
this was truly a treat. You don't meet people very often that have put this much thought into the practice of mindset.
Into thinking.
Yes. No, it's something that we look for all the time on the Masterminds. So really and truly, thank you very much for coming on.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks.
Peace.
Cool.